Anger, confusion, embarrassment, loneliness. What do these all have in common? They're emotional reactions to an experience we all face, but rarely talk about. We push it deep down inside, the feelings of shame and inadequacy that come with the territory. Hey, John Cougar, it doesn't hurt so good. It hurts so bad. Today on Kindness Rising, we're talking about rejection. Rejection, that feeling of being denied, dismissed, or not accepted. It triggers a primal need for belonging, validation, and acceptance, and activates in our brain as a threat to our survival. And that's why it's so painful. On Kindness Rising, we don't shy away from the tough stuff. Today, I'm going to share some stories of my own rejection, things I've experienced, and how it's influenced my life and my choices, and how out of these painful experiences, I've learned to be more resilient. Resilience, the natural anecdote of rejection. It isn't something we're born with, but it is something we can cultivate. We practice it and strengthen it, and it becomes just like a muscle. It's actually a gift that trains our brain. It tells us how we should see the world. It informs our choices. It helps us to navigate the world with greater wisdom. And with that wisdom comes kindness born out of empathy. With each painful experience of rejection, we learn how to bounce back and be more resilient. Eventually, we get strong enough to learn to dance with these feelings, flowing gracefully from that point of being frozen out of our hurt and moving in time to acceptance and the ultimate finish of gratitude and kindness. Rejection, it teaches us resilience, and that resilience, it builds kindness, and that's why we're here today. Welcome to Kindness Rising, your morning dose of hope, humanity, and heart. Not all rejection is the same, but they all have an impact on us. Some are small rejections, text messages that get left unread, or a client that doesn't call us back. Maybe your idea in a meeting gets ignored. You feel like you're being dismissed. Or the worst, a last minute cancellation of plans when you were excited to do something. Those lead to frustration, embarrassment, disappointment, but they're situational. With each instance, that's not that big. It's not that big of a deal, but it still feels like something. And it's the accumulation of that rejection that leaves us with self doubt and feelings of isolation. No one wants to feel that way, but we all have. We've all had those small rejections, things that have uh, just sent our day in a different direction than what we expected. We felt like we were dismissed or denied something that we really wanted. And here's an example from my life. It happened just yesterday, and it's about what we're doing here today. This isn't a guilt trip. Don't take it like that, but it does have an impact. And it had an impact on me yesterday when I was talking to Keith Billis from Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends, my mentor here on Kindness Rising, the guy who's making it happen for me and teaching me the way of live conversation. We're the only two people on the planet that are doing it, and he's been my mentor throughout. I really thank you, Keith, for helping me out. Don't forget to check out his show, Mornings in the Lab with Keith and Friends. But yesterday I was talking to Keith about my experiences. It's been 4 weeks, every day showing up. It's hard. It's hard to get up every day, make sure I make that commitment, keep that commitment to it, try to keep it fresh, learn, grow. We talk about progress over perfection. It's something that I'm leaning into, but sometimes it has a little bit of an impact. I feel things about it. And one of the things, the small rejections that I feel about this, related to this, is watching the numbers and watching people come and go from the show. What you might not know out there in TV land is that in streaming land is that as people are coming and going from the show, we can watch our numbers go up and down. This person's watching, this person's watching. We're seeing the individuals, we're seeing the numbers go up and down. That's a real experience that we have here. And when I watch my numbers go down throughout the show, and they peak up, they go down. I watch people leave the stream. It's not a guilt trip, but it makes me feel a little sad, a little bit like, oh, maybe I'm not keeping the audience connected. But here's the thing: that feeling of rejection, and my willingness to be resilient about it and talk to Keith about it, led me to a discovery with him. He has the experience. Guess what? People duck in and out, just like they change the radio dial, just like they change the television channel. People come in and out. That's the natural progression of morning shows. I was taking it personally. I was saying, "Man, I'm not doing a great job here. What's going on? Why are people leaving?" The good news is it gave me a chance to practice my resilience, watching these numbers go up and down. I'm trying not to concentrate on them. As I've talked about before, I don't care if there's one person or a million people on the show. If I can have that one impact on a person, help somebody see things differently, behave a little differently, be a little more kind. That's what I'm here for. That's why we come. That's why I show up every day out of the commitment to that one person. So stay with me. I hope this is helpful to people. We can talk about these rejections and process through some things related to it. We talked about small rejections. Now I want to talk about big rejections. These are the whoppers, the ones that really hurt deep down inside. They make us feel some significant things. They actually change our body chemistry. They change our lives. They're transformational. I'm talking about the huge ones. I'm talking about an unexpected job loss, divorce, rejections of our identity from our family, or people who leave us because of a choice we've made in our lives. These are less frequent, but they're super impactful in our life. They bring true shame and heartbreak, grief, identity crisis. They force us to redefine who we actually are at the core of our being. I know people out there have had these experiences. It's a natural part of life, and it's really difficult. But the good news about these horrible heartbreaks that we all experience, they invite us to be courageous, to reinvent ourselves, to find deep emotional and psychological growth so that we can bring our best selves every day. They help us to identify things that are misaligned with our priorities and who we are, helps us find our purpose. I've had some of these rejections too. We've talked about it on Kindness Rising. We don't shy away from the tough stuff. We can get a little vulnerable and talk about these things because I believe that when I share my experiences, hopefully somebody out there is hearing that and understanding they're not alone in their journey. I've been fired from jobs. I've had my personal choices questioned by people I love. The first one I remember was back in high school. It was the summer before my senior year in high school, and I lost my entire group of boys, my pack. They all turned their back on me because of a choice I made. After many years of exploring it, I realized it was not a great choice, but I made that choice and it had consequences. And I take personal responsibility for it, but it didn't change the hurt. The hurt I felt so deeply. You see, we were known as the meat wagon, the football linemen, the workout bros, the classic jocks straight out of a John Hughes movie. And suddenly I was alone. I had a complete loss of identity, forced to reformulate some semblance of a crew for my last year in high school among a bunch of embedded cliques. I know we've all experienced it in high school. Some of us were misfits, some of us were jocks, some of us were brains, the whole Breakfast Club thing, right? Uh, it's a real experience, a real high school experience that people have. And let me tell you, it was rough. It was really hard. My mother, who I know is out there listening, probably remembers it quite well, the pain that I experienced. I'm not ashamed to say I cried a lot. I got angry. I got indignant, and things got really ugly for me. But here's the thing, that loss, even though I couldn't see it at the time and I was in a lot of pain, it led me to amazing, unbelievable gains in my life that rounded me out, my personality, who I am, in ways that I would never have if all those guys had stuck around. I leaned into music, which has become a major passion of mine. I discovered one of my greatest passions. Talked about this before, the Grateful Dead. The music of the Grateful Dead got me through those times. The lyrics of Robert Hunter, the ability to improvise and move with the music. I used to just sit and listen and let it flow through me. And what it did, it helped me to spend time on the fringe, a little bit outside of the group that I was always part of, the guys who ruled the school. That gave me perspective. It gave me humility and really, really gave me compassion. These are the traits that define my kindness journey. That rejection from those guys became a gift, a huge benefit to me. It was still painful. It's still painful to even talk about. I think about it a lot. I think it's impacted every friendship, every relationship that I have had in my life. But it's brought me to a place of kindness, compassion, empathy, and understanding. Sometimes we make choices that aren't the best, but we stick with people when they make those choices. We help them to see, and we understand that even if those choices have consequences, eventually the pain that comes with that becomes resilience, and resilience becomes kindness. Rejection, it comes in many forms. We talked about those small rejections that test the ego and the big rejections that test the soul. But when we learn to dance with rejection and embrace them as learning, they become the gift of resilience and kindness. Here in Kindness Rising, we always lean into the research a little bit. I got to get to it. It's really important to me that we understand that these things are normal. They've been researched, they're understood by science and by the larger academic world. Rejection is no different. Neuroscience studies from UCL, they showed that rejection actually acts in a familiar way in our brain, particularly in the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. Those are some scientific words for you. I struggled with them a little bit, but there they are. Those are the exact spots in our brain that light up during physical pain. When you stub your toe, when you burn your hand on the stove, those are the areas of the brains that light up. Guess what? Your brain processes emotional pain in the same way as any other injury. Perhaps that's why we call rejection heartache. It's true pain, the exact same thing in your brain. Let's talk about anthropology. Humans evolved to survive in groups. So being cast out of our social network, it's literally a threat to our social survival. Feeling rejection becomes a danger signal. Our body wants to fix it fast. Then maybe that may be why we're so quick to move on, right? I talked about it in the beginning of the show. We feel that rejection, and our body, our brain is able to say, "Well, forget it, move on. You got to move on. You got to find that next connection, that next social connection," because our brain is wired for survival in groups. Here's the thing, I suggest sitting in it. When you feel it, you acknowledge it. You realize that we're not actually in survival danger. That's where real growth happens. Think about the times that you've been rejected. What does it really mean? How does it change your worldview on things? What are you going to do differently the next time? That's where we can actively work on ourselves, seeking out what we can learn from the experience. And let me tell you something else about me personally. I go to therapy. It's been life changing. Talked about it in other programs too. It's a place where you can process those feelings, where you can take a beat, a moment to to talk about it with someone who's a little bit more neutral, not connected to that situation. And just that processing of those emotions helps us to become more resilient, to learn and to grow in ourselves. That's a reaction. That's a healthy reaction to rejection. Let's get back to the neuroscience a little bit. Here's an interesting piece, and it gets back to the reason why we need to build ourselves up, to find our strengths in the world, to discover our purpose. It's because people with low self-esteem and low sense of purpose, they show stronger pain responses in those two weird places I talked about in the brain that I can't pronounce during social rejection. It's actually been studied. Brains have been studied to show that people with low self-esteem have stronger pain responses in those areas of brain in the brain than those who have a good solid understanding of themselves. And that, for people who have low self-esteem, it leads to overreactive emotions, rumination on the moment, and struggles with focus and concentration. The good news is in this that self-compassion has been proven to be the best way out of this pain. That's what we encourage here on Kindness Rising. We all make mistakes. We all do things. We all get rejected due to no fault of our own necessarily. But when we are compassionate with ourselves and treat ourselves kindly after a rejection, that's not weak. It's actually neuroscience, and it makes us stronger. I'm going to jump now into the comments. Let me take a quick look. I said I would do this a little more frequently. I see some names out here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Danielle, great to see you. Uh, Italy loves the USA. Hey, Danielle, I'm Italian. I love Italy. Uh, so thank you so much. And of course, our friends over here on the vertical, Keith Watkins, welcome. Saying gratitude. I have gratitude for you. Thanks for coming along. Uh, thank you so much for the encouragement and keeping up the good work. Global, the Breakfast Club. Yeah, you mentioned the Breakfast Club. There's no doubt about it. I was in the jock group until that moment, and then all of a sudden I became a misfit. I had to move on. I had to find ways, and that was a major learning for me. Just like all those characters there in the Breakfast Club. Foundational engineer, welcome. You don't understand what I'm talking about? I hope you do. I bet you do. I bet you have felt rejection. I'd love to talk to you about it sometime. Reach out to me and we can talk about what we're talking about. Um, thank you so much. Global, be driven. You're here. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I'm leaning in a little bit because I changed my setup a little bit and I'm trying to read. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Anyway, what we're building here at Kindness Rising is a community. It's another form of resilience, leaning into our friends, leaning into our family, and looking at ways that we can get stronger together. When we have those moments of rejection, remembering there are people who care, there are people who love you. If you're feeling rejected or not feeling good about yourself, those feelings of shame and embarrassment, I'm here for you. Keith's here for you over at Mornings in the Lab. We're here every day, 7:30 a.m., bringing hope, humanity, and heart, and 8 o'clock over at Mornings in the Lab Network. Please join us. I know it'll help your day. It'll help you get through those moments of rejection and make the world just a little stronger. This is the point where I usually talk about organizations, businesses, people who've leaned into this concept. I'm going to change it up a little bit here today because guess what? It's my show. I get to decide what we talk about, and I think these things will resonate with some people out there. I really hope you'll hear these stories. They're stories of celebrities, names you know, who faced rejection and used resilience to overcome what they were experiencing. Let's start with Oprah. Oprah Winfrey. You get a prize, and you get a prize, and you get a prize. Guess what? At 23 years old, she was fired from her first job in Chicago on television. She was told she was unfit for television because she was too nice. The queen of giving things away, of compassion, of leaning into uh, real conversations. She was fired for those very same qualities that ended up making her famous and building a media empire and leading up to her net worth today of $3.2 billion. That's crazy. That's crazy. Let's talk about Lady Gaga. She was born that way, right? But she lost her contract with Def Jam Records at 19 years old after only 3 months on the label. But she didn't give up. She leaned into it. She went out to dive bars and she started playing her songs in those dive bars in places where she recognized people. Since then, she's sold over 300 million records, has become a global icon. The music didn't change, but she stayed resilient and found her people. Albert Einstein, he didn't speak until he was 4 years old. His mother was told by teachers that he would never amount to anything. He turned that resistance into a passion for learning and won the Nobel Prize in Physics for the theory of relativity. He's proof that minds don't always fit the mold or the traditional timeline, but they find a way to their purpose with resilience. Last, we'll talk about Michael Jordan, MJ. He got cut from his high school varsity basketball team in his sophomore year, but he didn't quit. He continued to practice. He channeled that hurt into even harder work and went on to become arguably the best basketball player to ever play the game. Because sometimes rejection lights us up with a competitive fire we didn't even know we had. So lean into that rejection, learn how to dance with it. These are proof that we all experience it, but we can train our brain for resilience from rejection. Of course, we always talk about a kindness call here on Kindness Rising. We don't just talk about these concepts and share our stories, which are really an important part of the experience, but what we want is people to take action. I want you to think about rejection, think about the times in your life may have been a little bit hard, but here is your challenge for staying connected to your community. Let's call this the Resilience Ripple Challenge. Here's what I want you to do. 3 parts to this resilience challenge. The first is what we talked about earlier. It's self-compassion, being able to lean into ourselves, find our point of identity, and learn and grow. Maybe you want to write down a little kind note to yourself about a recent rejection. It maybe was something small, something that happened, someone that didn't return a text message, a client that didn't come through, just anything that made you feel a little dismissed or ignored or lonely. Write a kind note to yourself. Tell yourself all the good things about yourself that you know are true and that you are strong. Then think about the lesson. Think about the lesson of that rejection. How did it change your worldview? How are you going to do things differently? Write down one insight of what you learned from that rejection because that's what it is. It's a teaching moment for us. It's going to be okay. Take a moment, take a beat, realize you're not under attack for your survival, but you are going to learn and grow through it. And then it gets to the community. Start sharing that. Share your rejection, just like I did yesterday with Keith Billis, at telling him about how I felt when people came and went out of the chats. It's a way to get understanding and perspective, learn from each other, and support the people who who have been rejection. Because remember, resilience is built in your community, not in isolation. Rejection feels very personal, but when you make it part of your community and you talk openly about it and you share vulnerably about it, you will get stronger. And that's our kindness call. So what did we talk about today? We're going to get back into our kindness thread here. It's been a great episode. It's been really helpful, I know, for me to think about times in my life when I've been rejected. There's a lot more. There's a lot deeper ones too that maybe someday I'll share on another episode. But remember, this is about getting better, learning, growing, leaning into the things that have hurt us, make us more kind. Thank you. Thank you all for joining me here on Kindness Rising. Remember, your brain is trained to learn from the rejection. Use that to grow personally. Rejection is not a verdict on your growth. It's data on your worth. It's data for your growth. A setback is not a stop sign. A step back is not a stop sign. Just because you got knocked down, you get back up. It becomes a redirect. It becomes a left turn, a right turn, something different. That's life. That's the way it goes. Don't let those setbacks stop you. And lastly, remember, kindness plus resilience, that equals transformation. Thank you very much for joining me here on Kindness Rising. We come here every weekday, 7:30 a.m. with your dose of hope, humanity, and heart. We're on YouTube. Remember, resilience is a superpower and kindness is strength. Carry that with you through today. Carry it over to Mornings in the Lab with Keith and friends right now at 8 o'clock. He's going to be talking more about resilience. Thank you again. This is a community we're building here, and we are going to grow together. Keep showing up. Keep joining us in the comments. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we will get better together. Thank you very much. And as I always say, stay uncommon and stay kind.